Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so I can hear myself now. Okay, give me just a moment. Hold on. The audio sources were screwy. So let me. Uh, hold on. I don't know how to link up the Discord sound to Streamlabs. I have been given zero training in regards to how to do this. how how do you? Great. Am I gonna open up Google? How to link Discord audio Streamlabs. Oh boy. Okay, yeah, that's right. Uh, oh, okay. How to add Discord voice chat into. So, like, train yourself, nerd. I'm trying! Connor, how could you do this to me? Hold on. I'm just gonna add a new source. Let me see. Audio output capture. So desktop audio. So let me do that. Let me go do that. So let me create a new source real quick. I'm just gonna call it Lucas Discord. I've done this in OBS before.
Wait, what you mean? Oh.
Okay,
How many
do
people are
that. Hit
watching
done.
right now?
Okay,
Oh my.
now speak.
Test 1, 2, 3.
Mickey sounding.
Test
I
1,
make
2, 3.
sounds. Excellent.
Okay, okay. It
Wait, am I
finally
making sound as
works.
well?
Yeah, yeah. Speak real quick.
1.
Okay, Sky.
Yay! We're in.
Okay, holy cow. Okay, alright, so welcome everybody to the entirely botched podcast about Japan or whatever. My name is Lucas, and I am here with Sky and Mickey. Say hi, guys.
Hola.
Hi,
My name is
friends.
Mickey.
We have two chars here due to difficulties that I won't really want to fix, so we'll just have to break the space-time continuum today. Alright, so on today's schedule, if I remember where I put the outline. So, as I said before, the topic for today is primarily about Japan, our experiences with it, and what we think about it for the most part. So to start, I'm just gonna go down the line, and I'm gonna start with Mickey here, and
Hola.
I'm gonna ask how did you get to Japan? Like, was it via being a school trip, study abroad, born there? Though I don't think you were born there. Uh, Basically, how'd you get there?
How did I get there indeed? So let's talk about not the current situation I'm in, but 3 years prior. So I initially came to Japan via a school-sanctioned Texas A&M study abroad to Osaka University. It's a very specific program that honestly anyone can join in. It's called OSEP or Maple, depending on how good you are at Japanese. And you're free to come if you have the money. It's one of those things where nowadays you can't do it because COVID's a thing. But back then, fantastic way to go to Japan. Just one problem is that it does not contribute whatsoever to your engineering science, math, whatever degree that isn't liberal arts. So yeah, kind of wasting a year, but very, very fun.
Sounds very worth it. All right, how about you, Sky?
It all started 20 years ago. I was born in Japan. And then I moved here. And then in the summer, I would kind of come to Japan really often. So I'd kind of come to Japan and come here for about 3 months at a time. And then I'd be enrolled into school or just kind of hang out with my grandparents or maybe go on small trips around the country. And that was kind of about it.
No epic journey about throwing a one ring into one of Japan's volcanoes.
That sounds
I've been to a
way
couple
more
volcanoes in
complicated.
Japan.
All right. Well, my story is probably the most boring out of everybody else's. My experiences with Japan is primarily through a 2 month study abroad trip via A&M's hosted program with the Japanese professors here. Uh, to the point I wanted to go so bad to the point where I got the Japanese minor solely for the purpose of getting funding to go to this study abroad trip.
Wait, getting a minor gives you funding?
Oh yes, it does because it counts towards your
Then it's
degree
listed.
plan. Yeah, it counts towards your degree plan, and therefore you're allowed to get funding for it.
In a way that is hilarious, but
Yeah, and so the study abroad was primarily just contributing towards my Japanese minor. I took Japanese 201 and 202 during the entire summer with Wa Sensei first and Adam Sensei second, if you know who those are. If not, they are the Japanese professors of the of A&M. I
just a quick
also no
just
go
a
go
quick
on.
aside regarding study abroad opportunities by Texas A&M to go to Japan. There are two major ones. Actually, three major ones. We ignore the third one because it generally doesn't matter for anyone in engineering. But the first way is via the short study abroad over the summer, 12 weeks, with one of the Japanese professors, or both the Japanese professors, Wa Sensei and Adam Sensei. That's the one which Lucas went on, and generally, because it's over the summer, fits with a lot of people's schedules, and also costs much, much less. Although you don't get that much of a scholarship because, well, it's the Texas A&M scholarship. That's generally what you can get with that. There is two other programs that are connected to Texas A&M going to Japan, and it's the programs that or one of the programs that I decided to go to. It is specifically the Osaka University program. There are two branches to it. There is the OSET program and the Maple program. The OSET programs, if you don't have any Japanese knowledge whatsoever, you just want to go to Japan and take English classes and just experience it for anywhere between half a year to an entire year. So it's much longer than the teacher sanctioned one with Lucas. But at the same time, it's also one where you can potentially get a scholarship by the university. It's by the hosting university, in this case, Osaka University. So in that case, it's nice because you can get, for me at least, I got 600 a month with free tuition essentially, and it was fantastic. The other branch is the Maple program. That one is the Japanese intensive one. Generally, for that one, you need 201, 202 before you go there because they kind of require N3, give or take, or above, which is very, very hard for people who just have 201, 202 knowledge. But if you get that one, all your classes are in Japanese. You go to a different campus in Osaka University, but it's generally more fun in my opinion. The last one, the last option that you have is if you're a liberal arts major, and only if you're a liberal arts major, there is a specific study abroad opportunity to Waseda University from Texas A&M. Only works if you're in liberal arts, and I don't know anything about it. I think it's half a year to an entire year, like before. And I think it's also scholarship based. So those are your three options for going to Japan, at least as a Texas A&M student, as an exchange student. Of course, that doesn't work now because COVID's a thing, and Japan has closed its borders to everyone who's not a Japanese citizen.
I would like to
So.
note that there you can definitely go to Japan just through less legal means.
That is
Yes,
very true.
yes. You see, one of them is ship yourself onto a boat, and hopefully that boat sails into Japan.
I would
Very,
like to
very
note
common.
that there is another a study abroad program that is a lot more bare bones, and it's just because Osaka University is technically partnered with us, you can actually just enroll yourself as a student essentially after getting JLPT N2 or N1 certification. And
Yeah, but
even though you pay
that's just
A&M
harder.
tuition and you get all that, technically it still is a study abroad.
It is a study abroad. It's also insane qualifications. Just a quick brief on how the Japanese proficiency tests works in everywhere. But in Japan, you if you want to like kind of work in Japan or study in Japan or whatnot, you kind of have to take a Japanese proficiency test or some kind of proficiency test to test your Japanese. Kind of like how English has the TOEFL and the TOEIC.
Hmm.
It's separated in levels between 5 and 1, and 5 and 4, and 3 and 2 and 1, where N5 is way easy. You just need basic Japanese knowledge. And N1 is ridiculously hard because you need business and lawyer knowledge at that point, and it's annoying.
If I recall correctly, N1's also hard enough to a point where, like, even if you're a native speaker, you can have trouble with it because it's like you have to have a high familiarity with the grammar systems itself, and even native speakers in like English, for example, screw up on their own grammars all the freaking time. Because
I like to compare it to the SAT because it's like, oh, do you know these random ass words that come out of nowhere, and you have to answer them just for the SAT, right?
yeah,
And it's like most English people, let alone foreigners, will need to know these words in their lives.
yeah,
It's similar with the certain grammar patterns and certain kanji that are used in the N1. Although I will have to say, N1 does force you to use all 2,000 most commonly used kanji. So
yeah.
it's one of those things which makes sense in that regard.
N1's pretty freaking crazy. Generally, you can like if you plan on like staying long term in the country, N2's fine for the most part. But if you're trying to like build a business or something, if I recall correctly, or you're trying to really get into the the economy and workforce of Japan in a very what's the word I'm looking for? Just really into it, you probably need N1.
Yeah,
It really
so
is
most
the
government positions are N1, for
Yeah.
example. So going back before the tangent, yes, N1 is ridiculously hard, N5 is ridiculously easy. Most people, after finishing the 300, 301, 302 level, get barely between N4 and 3 level. They need a little bit more studying to get to N3. And the Maple program, which I was talking about before, requires give or take N3. And the ridiculous strat of going straight to Osaka University and taking the entrance exams is straight up N2, and that is really really difficult. If you come from the Texas A&M Japanese system, because as much as I like to say I like both teachers, they don't teach enough. Let's just say for you to pass the N3, let alone N2.
there's
There's
a lot
just
of
too much
rules.
Yeah.
material.
Yeah, even for me going all the way through two, I definitely was not prepared for N3. Now I hadn't studied for a while, but even then I could at least remember what I could tell what the grammar form was. Like I could figure out if I had learned it at some point. And there's so many N3 grammars I just never seen before in my entire life.
It's one of those things where I'm actually surprised I managed to get into the program I got into for my random 1 year long study abroad trip in Japan, because honestly I don't think I was qualified whatsoever, but managed to get there somehow. It
Yeah.
was interesting though, because I did learn a lot when I was in Japan. Forced to take Japanese classes and only Japanese classes. No classes were taught in English. So economics, social science, certain reading classes. There was an anime class. That was fun. Also, yeah, we got to watch anime in that class. No subs, of course. What can you do? But all of those classes were taught in Japanese, and if you're forced to do everything in Japanese, then you're gonna learn. You're gonna learn quickly, whether you like to or not.
While we're on the topic, we might as well start discussing just language barriers and just being whilst being in the country, what it's like, from a variety of levels of Japanese, from the Virgin Lucas, who could speak not a single lick of Japanese, uh, you know, like pretty much exactly what that's like. So Sky, what's your experience with language barrier? Do you have any issues with language barrier ever?
I guess the only language barrier that I would have to face when I'm in Japan is sometimes when I have to read certain things because my reading ability is not at the level where it should be. But for the most part, if you're in a city of any sort, it doesn't have to be Tokyo, it doesn't have to be Osaka or any of the big cities. Um, there are like if you're driving, all the signs have English and Japanese. Menus at all the biggest restaurants have English and Japanese. For the most part, Japan is very, very easy to live in, at least in my opinion, if you don't know Japanese. If you're dropped in maybe more of like somewhere really rural, then that might be a little unfortunate. But I think for the most part, there are a lot of people who live in Japan right now who don't know Japanese at the level that people would be required to know English in America.
Mm.
So a good like thought experiment regarding that is this thing called the JET program, where they basically, well, the JET program itself is a way for English bachelor or people who know English, right? Whether they are mostly in America, of course, to teach to teach English, sorry, to Japanese students in the many places in Japan, right? Now, while you might think that you'll probably dropped off in a nice place like Tokyo, Osaka, one of the big cities, that's rare. That accounts for like 0.01% of the people. Most people are actually just randomly placed in the most rural areas in Japan. Examples include middle, like straight up middle Japan, like where no one lives. It's just a mountain. Shikoku, which is a tiny little island, like kind of existing surrounded by the major islands, but like for some odd reason, no one lives there. And also some of like the tiny little islands that exist south of Japan as well. JET program applicants just randomly get thrown around, and in most cases, the people who go into JET don't actually know that much Japanese. At most, probably enough for, say, the 200 level classes at Texas A&M, and yet they're able to survive perfectly fine in those areas. So that enough is to show that you don't necessarily need Japanese to live in Japan. In fact, you can probably get by with bare amounts of Japanese and all the English knowledge in the world. It's more suffice to say that if you have Japanese knowledge, things become a little bit more interesting because now you get to read a lot of the signage. You know what things are, not immediately because it does take time to read, but you get to learn a little bit more about that kind of stuff, and you get to finally deal with the one thing that a lot of people can't, and that's go on Japanese websites, book a bus, book a ticket to a concert, and all that stuff without using Google Translate, and it's fun.
Yeah, I think one of the craziest things is that the reason why many tourists spend so much money is because they don't know the language and that they don't realize that, oh, I can take a bus or a train that takes maybe a couple extra minutes than the fastest one that I see at the main station, and I can save up to 50% or even more just to go wherever I want.
I just have a
And
train
so,
pass.
yeah. Train pass, yeah, train pass is like $200. You can do the same thing with about $10, $15, maybe even $20 to get across the country, and it will take you a substantially more amount of time. But it's easily doable and it is a lot cheaper.
Yep. In regards to my experience, I've got the least Japanese experience of everyone here. My experience started out a little rough, but that was due to the fact that it was the first time that I had ever been in a country that where English wasn't the primary language, so I had to get used to different signage. At the time, I didn't exactly remember katakana very well. I learned real quick how to read katakana, because when I was in Tokyo, there are a lot of signs with katakana on it. Um, Not particularly directions or anything, but just buildings and such. And it kind of helped me, attach landmarks mentally in my head when I was exploring the area. Um, I think realistically the hardest part and most stressful part was when I wanted to order food from a place that didn't have a ticket machine. Uh, that was incredibly stressful, and I have a funny story about that. I went to McDonald's with a study abroad mate. He was pretty decent at Japanese, and he wasn't afraid to, get his hands dirty and screw up a lot, right? But he knew his stuff for the most part. And I was at McDonald's with him, and he and I were in line, and I was first, and I was ordering my food in Japanese, as one would have to. And I was ordering it, and finally got through most of it. And then finally, they asked a question. I don't remember the question anymore, but they asked a question in Japanese that I wasn't familiar with. And so, as a foreigner would normally do, you just respond yes or nod your head or whatever because I was shy and I didn't want to have them repeat themselves. So I just said yes. And then they asked the question again, and I just kind of said hi, hi, and nodded. And then they were even more perplexed and slowly repeated the question to me. And at that point, I knew something was up. So I tapped my friend on the shoulder. I'm like, hey, do you know what she's saying? And he's like, can, can you repeat that? And she did. And he said, no, I don't know what she's saying either. And she repeats it one more time, and we're both completely lost. We're holding up the line. There's like 5 people back there that just want their chicken nuggets. And we're all confused, all hell. And I'm just replying yes to a question I'm not even sure of the contents of. And then the manager comes in and he speaks with English, perfect English. He's like, you want it for here or to go? And he and I are just sitting
Yes.
there, like awestruck. Like I felt like an idiot because literally that entire conversation was, do you want that food for here to go? Yes. Uh, do you want that food here or to go? Yes. And so on. um, and Yeah, so that can give you quite the illustration of my experience with speaking Japanese. Dear God, I was terrified to speak to people after that. After embarrassing myself like that, I could not speak a lot until I went to a sticker shop called B-Side Label towards the end of my trip, and the customers are used to not customers, the employees are used to a lot of tourists, and so they tend to speak simple Japanese to them if they can speak it. And I was actually able to follow and understand and have a pretty decently long conversation with them about what I was doing, what I was buying, and whatnot, yada 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 yada. So that was great. But yeah, no. While it wasn't impossible to navigate the country without Japanese, it definitely would have helped. It definitely would have helped, to say the least.
Yeah, it's one
Um,
of those things where having more knowledge, of course, allows you more options and thus more experiences if you want to consider that as well.
I mean, yeah, like simple phrases or simple grammar structures. Like if you can say, "Is there something? Does something exist at this location? Where can I?" Just simple, questions are incredibly helpful because they'll generally speak in simple enough Japanese if you ask in simple enough Japanese, right? It wasn't impossible to navigate. It was just really annoying too. Also, as I illustrated, ordering food at restaurants that don't have the holy ticket machine, uh, which are amazing, by the way, is really difficult, especially if you're not a person that likes to, yell out, right? Because you gotta yell at the waiter or waitress for them to come by, because they don't just come by your table like normal waiters do. You actually have to call out to them, or you have the button. But if you don't have the
The
button, you
holy
gotta go.
button.
The holy button and the holy ticket machine, a tourist's best friend. um, yeah, no, you can learn quite a lot just by being in Japan and being required to use it. I definitely did. I definitely did. Um, all right. Would either of you like to add on to anything, or shall we move on to the next cookie cutter question?
Oh, I'm fine with whatever is going on. Just keep going.
All right. So, if I'm reading here, and I'm going to quote Connor and pin this on him, he wrote events that are kind of poggers.
I think
Uh,
both me and Mickey are gonna give very very different answers. So
Go for it.
it's completely dependent because there's the pure anime side of me that just says just go to Akihabara, have fun for like a day, and then never come back. Also go to all the conventions you can. And then
Yeah.
there's the other me, which is like literally go look at the events that happen in your city and go to them, which includes festivals and a bunch of neat events. Like an example was in my case, there was a very nice what was it? What were they called? Like those music festivals, Tankabon festivals or whatnot, that just happen in the middle of Osaka. Those are really fun to go to. And even if you don't, if you have enough Japanese knowledge, take a car, assume you have a license, and drive down the highways. It's really, really fun, surprisingly. It's also really peaceful.
Or just don't have a license.
or
I know.
drive down the mountains.
Oh, those are fun. Okay. Experience time. So, me and my friend decided one day. So this was like during one of our holidays in during class or what during one of the semester breaks essentially, sorry. And we decided, oh, where we live happens to have happens to have a ton of mountains nearby. I wonder, could we like rent a car and see if we could just like drive these as fast as we can without, without getting any police attention. Let's just go with that without going too illegal, okay?
This sounds bad.
And oh yeah, it was excellent. So me and a couple of my friends, we weren't drunk by the way. So let's get that out of the way. We weren't actually doing anything illegal. Decided to come and drive this mountain for basically a couple of hours because first off, the mountain thing was really long, like most mountain paths are. But we also discovered really quickly that you should not be on this mountain at night for one
Yes.
reason. Oh my gosh! As soon as like the sun goes down behind a mountain, you can't see anything. Like your only indication is the lights in front of you. Like we were thinking initial D experience where it's like, oh, okay, I'm gonna turn on my lights and have like a range of area where I could like somewhat see and like some ambient lighting, right? Nah, you don't get any of that because the trees are like so kind of like scattered around and they kind of like block, they don't reflect any light whatsoever. You're kind of just staring into a void. You can only see like 5 meters, or sorry, 5 yards in front of you that is just illuminated by light. And if there are no cars on the same place you are like essentially just lost. You just can't see anything, and the only thing you can do is just like drive down the mountain pass as slow as possible because if you go any faster, you swear you're just gonna hit one of those barriers, smash through it, and just yeet yourself off of the mountain.
Oh my
So,
God.
so
A good
like,
note.
yeah. Go ahead.
is that some of these mountain passes are one-way roads, and it is very easy to be on the wrong one.
Yeah.
Is this
So
from
Also happened
experience?
before.
Oh my
Yeah, no.
god.
yeah, so essentially we were just randomly driving at like 4 p.m. and it was nice. We could see everything. And then as soon as 6 p.m. hit, where the sun came behind the mountain, we could not see anything. And we decided to just, we're going home. We're going home right now. All we could see, lights in front of us and the sign of a GPS, and that's it. And we were just like, yeah, we're going home. I don't want anything to do with going fast down this mountain anymore. Holy no. That's unsafe.
I mean, in
Very
my head,
unsafe.
that sounded like a bad idea already.
No, but you see, we were thinking, like, okay, we're gonna initial D down this mountain, right? Like, we're not going fast, right? Of course, that's dumb. But we're just gonna enjoy the sights of a mountain and just enjoy ourselves going down. Not gonna happen past 6 p.m. You're just terrified at that point.
Oh my god. Oh man, and yeah, and the sun especially doesn't it set? It sets way earlier in Japan too, if I recall correctly.
That's
You
because
don't do
Japan doesn't
daylight
have
savings.
daylight
Well,
savings time.
I mean, yeah, but yeah.
It's mainly that. So when daylight savings time's supposed to happen, you expect all this light, and then 6 a.m., 6 p.m. happens, and it's just dark.
6 a.m. happens, and it's super bright.
Hope
Yeah,
you-
that too.
Hope you got night vision.
Yeah. But yeah, that actually highlights another thing about Japan that's actually quite interesting. Not every single road is lit, and that is especially is true for two things: mountain passes and farmland. Farmland is like everywhere in Japan because for some odd reason everyone seems to own a patio of some sort, right?
We need
But
rice.
Yes, but those aren't lit whatsoever either. So if you happen to be on that road going home, which has happened to me once or twice, despite me living in a big old city like Osaka, there's just no light. You're just kind of like, what? Why is it so dark here? Why is there no light?
Not only is there no light, but the roads are also extremely small. As in,
Yes.
they're probably smaller than the sidewalks you see on campus at A&M. And that because of how the rice paddies are, it's that the road is lifted up, and so if you go off the edge, you're falling into the rice, and then you're stuck forever.
Gosh, Higurashi just got scarier.
Yeah, no, like Japan teaches you to respect the dark.
Respect the darkness.
Although there is one caveat to this. Japan is super safe as a country. Okay, well, yeah, super
Well,
safe as a
driving
country.
is safe in general.
Yeah, so
'Cause everyone's
you
so
can-
nice as a driver. They'll
Yeah, so
always
you-
let you in.
yeah, and you can just like what I did. Like when I could, first off, trains don't. You might expect like Japan to be like amazing with their trains, right? With their punctual and whatnot, and yes, they are. But they also don't work after 10 p.m. and don't start until 7 a.m. because, well, there's no such thing as late night stuff. So you're forced to either get a taxi or, in my case, a lot of time, walk home. And in those cases where I had to walk home with me and a phone and a GPS, like those times were really, really peaceful because Japan's a very, very safe country. Like nothing's going to happen if you're just going to walk, like, say, 3-4 miles from the city center back to the mountains where you lived.
I would
in
like
my
to
case,
know that on average Japan is safe, but when a crime does freaking happen, it's usually absolutely freaking insane. Just every time I see something happen in Japan, it's absolutely freaking crazy.
Yeah, I think that's kind of like part of their sensationalist kind of form of media that
I'm
they
sure
have.
it is.
I mean, they only have 15 channels on the TV anyways.
Wait,
And then when a crime does happen, now it's on the national
yeah.
news and everyone's blowing things out of proportion.
okay.
Of course, there are ones. I remember there was one that was a guy who hopped into a hospital and stabbed 15 people. That one was crazy.
Yeah.
15
Uh,
channels? That's it?
Yeah.
Wow.
So
Maybe 30.
here's the thing
Pay
with
for
sensate.
PCS,
Yeah.
whatever it's called.
Here's the thing with sensationalism in Japan. Like, literally, the only channels you kind of get are variety, drama, anime. Well, it's half of them.
Anime
Uh,
like past 10
Yeah,
PM.
past 10 p.m. And that's it. you might think that politics would be more until you realize there's really only one party.
Oh no.
So it's just like there's not really much entertainment, and you can see why. Like everything else is sensationalized beyond hell. So you watch
That
a
makes sense.
variety show, and it's like it's packed with information. Like there's obviously the thing that you're watching, the variety part, where I don't know, a man tries to climb a wall full with slime or something. Very common. Yes, I know. But then there's like tiny little boxes in the corner where it's just like, oh yes, this is a commentator reacting, another commentator reacting, an idol reacting,
Yes.
and then a comedian reacting, and then throughout this entire thing, just words pop up in Japanese, just being like, boom, 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 boom. It's just like, this is I don't know how to follow this. This is really hard.
I remember looking at a news story right around when COVID started becoming an issue globally. And they were doing something about how foreigners spread COVID more because of how they pronounce certain letters. And so what they did was that they grabbed a tissue and they held it in the air, and they had a person speaking in Japanese and a person speaking in English, and they would say, "Kore wa pen desu," or "This is a pen," and so obviously with Japanese they did when they said "Kore wa pen desu," tissue didn't move. But when the English speaker just said "This is a pen," they enunciated the P, and it just freaking blew the tissue. And it's just it was stupid stuff like that. It was I remember watching that one, being kind of confused.
Yeah, there's a lot of that,
And
unfortunately.
of
There's a
course,
lot of
the
pseudo
window.
fake science.
Yeah, it's very pervasive in Japan. Let's just say.
And of course, let's not forget there was the reaction window.
The reaction when there's all those
Is
commentators
that a
talking
staple
about.
in Japan? Is that unique to Japan, or do other countries do this?
I have no idea. I cannot
No
tell you.
clue.
The thing is that if I were to posit a guess, you might have to just first off check out South Korea, and then also check out China. In which case, I have no idea.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll have to look into that. But yeah, I can't stomach Japanese TV. When it was on in the mornings, I would just watch it while I was just waiting for everybody else to wake up and go to the train with me. I couldn't understand what was going on, but just the visuals alone were very just distracting and annoying.
I will
Yeah,
say
usually-
that certain Japanese programs are fun, especially if you can find the ones where it's just straight up manzai. So what manzai is Japanese comedy duos. You probably heard of the
I've heard
terms
of those,
"komi" and "bokeh" before, for the bokeh doing something absolutely dumb or insane, and the tsukomi being like whacking him with a paper fan or like talking back snidely and that kind of stuff, right? That's a staple in manzai comedy, and you can. And generally, they do have a manzai channel, which is very very fun to come and watch if you can find it.
Yeah, I'll have to look more
The
into that.
the one problem, of course, is that the manzai or the comedy is in Japanese. So
Yeah,
good
and
luck with
you
that.
also have to like understand cultural context with the comedy too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very common.
And that's a problem with literally any other culture you're trying to look into.
But honestly, like comment if you want to learn the sensibilities of Japan real quick, go watch them because
Oh,
they
yeah.
poke fun at what Japanese sensibilities are, and because you inherently like laugh at these things, or you're supposed to, right? That you can learn real quick like what exactly is supposed to be right or wrong in Japan, or at least on that kind of level, at least.
I see. Dang, man, that was a long tangent. What did we start with? What was
I would
that?
like to add a little bit to this tangent.
Go
I-
on.
One
Yeah,
more
go
thing about manzai is that it really it's manzai is not popular in the U.S. and there's a very good reason. So is that it doesn't really translate over. And I think one really cool thing is that it's funny for Japanese people, and a lot of famous manzai and people who do kind of Japanese comedy are really just not funny in other places, and
Yeah,
that
so it's
it's kind
it's
of
it's
something unique to Japan, where like manzai they have manzai and they do it like this, and like the famous manzai people go to special comedy school and like stuff like that. Yeah, they go to school for this kind of stuff. Did I mention?
So,
so like you said, it's a change. It's different values in terms of comedy in this very specific instance.
by the way, small other tangent. I'm constantly impressed as I've been studying Japanese and looking into Japanese culture. It's incredibly impressive seeing that the grammar structures reflect how the culture behaves in general. Like, like in Japanese, there's a lot of grammar structures that encourage implying things and having subtext more than just outright saying something, right?
Yeah,
Like rather than criticizing somebody outright, you just compliment them and say they're fine. The good old Nihongo Jozu, for
I think
example.
that's just sarcasm
It's,
in general. So
If only they actually
if
understood sarcasm.
if you want like a more concrete example of that, it is specifically the word order in Japan. So
that, yeah.
you don't know. So you and I and Sky over here obviously know this, but just for the audience over here, Japanese word order goes whatever you want, verb is always last.
Yep.
Right? So, what that can do is you can expect a certain verb, but have it completely changed for something else. And that is very, very common in Japanese comedy. Because it's like, an example would be like, to me, you, and then like nothing, right? Then you and a Japanese person would like, from there, try infer what verb it might be. Like, I don't know, you slapped me in the face, for example. But because the verb is always last, and you can do some changes to it as well. It could all in the end be something like I actually slapped you, just in a passive tense. And what this specifically does is actually makes what a phenomenon in Japan where mystery novels are actually really, really interesting to read in Japanese
Yes.
and horrible to translate into English. And what I mean by that is an example would be anything by Natsume.
Soseki?
Yeah,
I have one of his
Soseki.
books. I have
Yeah,
let's see, which one is it? I have Kokoro by Natsume Soseki. It's a very famous book.
yeah. But in
Drizzle.
a lot of his work, he uses that specific kind of interaction in Japanese to mislead you, essentially, every single time, until the very end, where he uses the right verb, essentially, to actually guide you to the correct path, essentially.
Dang.
It's one of those things where it's because of how Japanese is written, because of how Japanese is ordered, which is a language where it's either SOV or OSV, it doesn't matter. The verb is always last, is the point here. And English has to have the verb in the middle. It has to be in between the subject and the object, no exceptions. But because of that, we also have comedy that doesn't work in Japan. Because we can say things where the subject and the verb are known, but never the object, right?
Mm. Mm.
So there's an example where English would work for comedy in terms of that, or mystery novels or whatever, right? Like whatever. The point here is that because Japanese and English are inherently just different. The grammar system is different. The word order, which is inherent, is different. You will get two different mindsets when it comes to everything else. Comedy, how to write, any sense of like creativity. It's really unique in that sense.
Yeah, they just it's kind of just absolutely crazy. Just how often, in both ways, I suppose, how language reflects the culture, but culture also just reflects the language. They both influence each other, and how you how you act. All right. So now that we've got through that last tangent,
How did we get here, by the way? I
we
remember
started with
talking.
we started with Connor's ever graceful topic of
Events that are
events that are
poggers, and
kind of
then proceeded to
poggers.
not talk about any events.
I mean, I talked about
Y'all talk about
driving on
mountain
a mountain.
driving first, so I'm gonna go
Great.
talk about some actual events that I was a part of. I was a part of one notable event that I was a part of for a little bit was my last night in Japan. I went to a festival. I don't recall what festival this was. I believe it was at Hachioji, part of Tokyo. I don't remember. It was a summer festival, obviously, but I don't remember what it was celebrating exactly. Um, and let me tell you, festivals are way more insane than any piece of media will ever freaking represent, in my opinion, at least from the stuff I've seen. There are so many people, so many activities, so many booths, and even especially if you're in Tokyo, so many different kinds of people working at festivals and going to festivals. I remember talking just this one dude that just worked at a what looked to be a brewery of sorts. We just kind of chatted for like the 20 minutes straight about whatever at the festival. That was really cool. But like there's just so many. So in order to you know say what I've done, I guess chronologically it would be better. So I just kind of took a train to Hachioji that night, and obviously I went there. And basically, once I got off the train station, when I looked like towards my left, I saw like a huge road, right, of a lot of booths. The road is practically closed off to a lot of vehicles and whatnot from what I was seeing. It was just foot traffic the entire way through, and it was ridiculously crowded. And then there's obviously food booths like I had takoyaki. Um, I also had what's that Japanese food that's a cabbage pancake?
Konamiyaki.
Okay,
Okonomiyaki.
yeah, I had that. I had a lot of food if I recall correctly, just various stuff. Um, and shaved ice. The general stuff you often see in like festival episodes. And then you had a whole bunch of really cool games to play. Gosh, it was so long since I've been there. It's really hard to remember exactly what was there. But I think my favorite part was I wish I could show this because I do have a video of this. It's just a person standing on a raised platform with a structure behind them, and then just dancing to a flute, and they had on like a mask and like these weird wig things. It was really cool. Um, God, man, I wish I could remember more of the specifics, but it was like what 3 years ago, 3 years ago since I did that. Two, 3, whatever.
Remind me, did you go to Japan when I went to Japan, or was it
Mm,
before or
after,
after?
probably after. I
Okay.
went. Oh God, what year was it? 2019.
2018 summer.
I was
2019.
last in Japan in 2018.
Yeah, I went in 2019.
Wait, when did you come, Sky?
I was last in Japan in 2018, so we were in Japan at the same
Oh,
time. I think.
oh, I just didn't know you then. Oh, that wasn't that's
Yeah,
in.
I was still in high school.
Oh my! I was in my third year of college.
Do you feel old
Fourth
yet?
year.
You
Fourth year
feel
of
old yet,
college.
buddy? Yeah.
Dang.
I have a lot to talk about festivals. There are so many festivals, and festivals have changed so much in the past 10 years that there's too much to talk about. Like you said, Lucas, there are so many different kinds of people at festivals now. That's kind of something that's been like more and more every single year. And so there's a lot of good like Middle Eastern food and because of how certain immigrants come to work in Japan because of their experience in Japan is not what you would call better. It's just better than their old situation. So
Mm.
even though the workers in Japan are treated poorly, immigrant workers are treated very poorly in Japan. They come to Japan and then they'll do these things and then they'll open up stalls during festivals and make a lot of really cool food. Um, on top of that, because there's also the population is decreasing, festivals will carry a kind of a big like a shrine kind of deal, or maybe it'll be a big figure of maybe the big thing that the city's about. So for example, there is a festival that I went to 3 years ago called the Numata Matsuri, which is the Tengu festival out in the middle of really nowhere, complete nowhere in the top of a mountain. And we had to drive at night, and it was super spooky and scary. And but the thing was is that you can sign up and they give you a special kind of uh yukata style dress, like wear clothing, and then you carry these big shrines and you run around and then you carry these shrines across the town, and then you put it down, and then you'll start dancing and you start singing, and then you drink, and then everyone drinks together, and it's a really big fun. It's a blast, because before it was you would have kind of every street or the school or local areas would make their own little shrine, and the whole town would come together and to make put off the festival. But now, because there's less people, they now invite people to come in and participate, which is really, really cool.
That's really interesting. Yeah, festivals are honestly, oh god, yeah. If you're ever in Japan during a time when there's a festival, do yourself a favor and go.
There is always a festival
Seriously,
going on. Every city has their own festival.
dude, I wish we had as many festivals in America as Japan has. Like, I really do, because festivals were a lot of fun. Going to just the one was a once in a lifetime experience for me. That was
Yeah.
especially on the last night. I did that on the last night. The following day, I was going to leave the country, so it was a really great send off.
Yeah. One also like random fact about festivals is that a lot of the booths at festivals are maybe not specifically quote unquote owned by Yakuza, but are have ties to the Yakuza is the easiest way to put it.
I remember on the first day I was in Japan and we had this informational, right, about whatever the program was about, right? And we got to the section of the locations and general geography of Tokyo, and then the lady was talking. She was like, "Yeah, just don't go here, 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 or here at night." And one of us was like, "How come?" And she said, "Oh, that's because the Yakuza." And everybody just went silent.
If you want the locations, they're Roppongi, Shimbashi, Kabukicho. There's like two others, but those are the main ones that you should probably not come at night.
Yeah.
Oh man,
Unless you want to go drinking, they go to Roppongi. Come with me.
Another thing about Yakuza is that people talk about, if you leave the Yakuza, get your pinky cut off. That is incorrect. It can be any finger on your hand. It does not have to be the pinky.
Like that makes it any better.
Oh, it makes it much worse.
Oh
And it's
gosh.
not even your discretion. It's always the discretion of the boss.
Of course.
Yeah,
So,
freaking or a force we reckon with, and I hope I never meet one.
the problem is that because they have, well, I wouldn't say good PR, but whenever a disaster happens, they try very hard to get the best PR. So, like, not many people, like, really oppose them, per se.
I mean, it makes sense. You know, if you're a crime syndicate, you don't want to you don't want to make sure that the area you're at is destroyed in some form. That defeats the whole purpose of having territory, right? You gotta make sure it's managed well enough that you can actually stay in it, and you gotta make sure that the populace is happy enough that they're content with not kicking you out.
Well, it's not just that. It's actually mainly aid to other areas affected. An example of this would be the Fukushima disaster way back when in 2014, right? There is no local, per se, Yakuza presence there because it's way north and nothing is there. Let's just say, other than a nuclear reactor. But one of the first responders was the Yakuza from Tokyo.
Okay, that makes a little more sense. Okay.
So it's one of those things where, yes, they kinda have that nation's interest kind of in heart, mainly probably to protect themselves, but at the same time, they also do awful things. And I'm not gonna tell you what they are because you can look them up yourselves.
Yeah, the Yakuza scare me for a freaking good reason. I don't ever want to come across someone in the Yakuza and just get wrapped into some business that does not concern me.
Also, one more thing regarding Yakuza is that generally, as like a front, because of course they won't really interact that much with foreigners, or they will, but like not in a negative way. And in general, you can't really get on the bad side of the Yakuza unless you really try.
I mean, it makes sense. I mean,
Yeah.
you don't want to get tied up in foreign affairs in any way. It's just too much trouble. It's just.
It's interesting because you like you said, your orientation was like, don't go here, 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 and here at night. But the honest answer to that is you can, and
You
honestly,
don't look Asian.
you're probably not gonna get like murdered by the Yakuza.
Just don't.
It's just
Yeah. Just
just
don't poke
don't
your
do
nose into trouble, and trouble won't find you, kind of thing.
yeah, just don't poke your nose into the like even if you do, they won't immediately like straight up try to like silence you or anything. In fact, more often than not, they'll just request you not to talk about it and just leave. It's one of those things where it's just obvious, where it's just like, well, they're not going to like do anything to you because that's dumb, but also don't test your chances.
Yeah, no kidding. Like, once you get that opportunity to leave, you take it and you run. Don't push your luck.
Yeah,
The chances
and
of seeing a gun in
honestly,
Japan are low.
if you are, you're probably going to get punched, and that's the end of the story. Because generally, that's what happens. They don't. You are not a big fish in like
Small fish.
a tourist in random Shimbashi, Roppongi, Kabukicho at night. Like honestly, they're not gonna like take you back to their headquarters and interrogate you. You don't have information.
Oh, man.
You don't matter. They're
You're
probably if you start a fight, they'll probably just punch you and just leave you there. That's probably the worst option. They won't even take anything. Is generally the rule.
And
Because
if you are big fish, they're gonna go take you to see Majima.
well, even if you are a big fish, there's like rules to that, and let's not get into that because that's an entirely different side of Japanese politics. That first off, I don't know, but two, I
Beyond
know
the
exists.
Yeah, and beyond the scope of the entire podcast, I believe.
I know it exists because I have a friend, and we're just gonna leave it there. Continuing on.
All right. In regards to other events, there's some nerd stuff, less traditional stuff that I've been to,
Oh,
of course.
should I recount my entire knowledge of all the conventions in Tokyo?
I wanna at least go over like a couple things first, and
Okay,
then
go
I'll
ahead.
be quick though. So the first thing I went to, because I'm a Final Fantasy 14 nerd, I went to the Final Fantasy 14 cafe, which was really great, and I got to eat a lot of food. And I don't have any pictures right now because I'm too lazy to attach them to software that I don't know the name of anymore. And then the other thing that I went to, which was really cool, was the Attack on Titan exhibit. I don't think they're ever doing it again, but it was in Roppongi, actually, if I recall correctly. It was this tower. I don't remember what the tower is called though, but it was this gigantic tower, and I went up to it. I went up a few floors. It was just a bunch of art in regards to like drafts from the manga, um, just some other exhibits, a cool little film. Um, so that was really 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 cool. Um, but those
Before
are
you go on, that specific place is generally always an art place similar to that. In the time when I was there, instead of Attack on Titan, the focus was Jump, just Jump in general. The
mm,
25th anniversary of Jump. So that included art of One Piece, anything that's been featured in Jump, which and was still airing, was includes Gintama. At the time, Kimetsu no Yaiba, Demon Slayer, also Doctor Stone, also the quintuplets. There was like a bunch, and like you said, at the very top there's a cafe, and you can do so. You can eat related foods to whatever topic it is at the moment. So
I went to that cafe, by the way, at the top. Uh, God, that food was expensive. I'm not even sure if it was worth it for the quality of the food, but it looked cool. Um, I got a coaster, so that was really cool. But like, the funny thing about that was I got sat down, right, and the place I sat down, I took a picture of. And a year later, I'm on Wallpaper Engine looking for some wallpapers in Tokyo. And lo and behold, there's a wallpaper, a time lapse of the exact freaking part I was sitting at with the exact view I had taken a picture of. Just a small little tidbit there about that day. That was a really cool find. But yeah, like I went to Akihabara because of the FF14 cafe, and another occasion, like just one time, and I thought I would really like Akihabara, but God, I was wrong. Holy hell, it's loud. It's
yeah,
really loud and slightly obnoxious.
Loud, crowded, and kind of expensive.
Really
yeah.
expensive. That's not even kind of expensive. It's really expensive. Though
So
the FF14 cafe I went to, while expensive, made some really freaking good food, but that's beyond the point.
mhm. So there's like a couple of like traveler tips when going to Akihabara, and that is one day, like you spend one day doing it, like going to Akihabara at face value. Whatever you see, whatever you like, kind of look at, it's probably best seen once. Because honestly, after the second, third, fifth, 100th time, it gets really, really, really noisy, like you said before, and also very, very crowded because of how many people are there. What the trick to Akihabara after that point is to locate the shops that you care about. So generally, you might not know this, but Akihabara has like uh all of these like front stores, right?
No
But
way.
like if you look very carefully, there's like staircases up to like the third, fourth, and fifth, and upwards, all the way up. And you can actually go inside them and find very, very, very unique things. An example is a rave party in one of the buildings, and you just didn't actually see it. Another
That
thing is one of the best karage shops that exist and like random bars that happen like at the top floor. Also, you could a lot of the places in Akihabara, if you don't want to be like spending every single cent on like the new items in like the popular stores outside, what you can do is you can again look to those tiny little holes in the walls, so to speak, and find the secondhand shops. Like they are everywhere in Akihabara. Like actually everywhere. And we're not talking about the big chains like Surugaya and whatnot. We're talking about like tiny little chains owned by like I don't know, a person or two. And they generally offer really deep discounts up to 90% off of like say certain manga, doujinshi, anime, which you should not buy in Japan, and music, which I do buy in Japan. In
also
addition to that, there's also all of the arcades, which honestly are the best part of Japan, and unfortunately one of the Segas is closed down. But
I have a
yeah.
funny story about the arcades, but I will, if I remember it later, I will say it because it is absolutely hilarious.
No, go ahead. I just wanted
Okay,
to give some traveler
so
tips because yeah.
this is an Akihabara, right? So as some context, right? I injured my elbow, right? And and injured some nerves in my funny bone, right? Because I landed my elbow on the corner of a stair. I had to go to a doctor for obvious reasons. My hand was completely numb. um, and I get some I get some info. Like, hey, this doctor here is English speaking. Go to him. I'm like, all right, I'll go. Turns out he retired like several months ago. So I'm in Shibuya, incredibly pissed off at the fact that this doctor had retired years ago. Actually, I was more mad about the fact about the outdated information. I'm actually quite happy that the doctor found a quite happy life to end on in his career. Regardless, I was mad. In the middle of Shibuya, I decided, screw it, I'm just gonna go to an arcade. I go to I go to the nearest arcade in Shibuya after going to before going to Wendy's. So I go there. I get some toys and I win a couple plushies that were valued at $50 each for $20. For both of them each. So I saved a ludicrous amount of money. I got like a gigantic Mimikyu plushie and I got a gigantic Mew plushie. So I am happy as a freaking toddler on Christmas Eve, right? I am giddy, I am smiling, I'm like nostalgic. So I'm going back, right? And this dude in the middle of the street stops me, and he has this camera with him and this mic. And it's like, it's not just camera, it's TV camera, right? And I don't know what the hell's going on, but he stops me. He says, English or Japanese? And I'm like, I didn't even think. I just said English because it was so sudden. I just went with the first thing that popped in my head, which was respond to the question. And then he asked me, so what age were you when you lost your virginity? And I just laughed. I was like, ha! No, and I immediately left. And I'm certain on somebody's YouTube channel, I'm somewhere on that. And it was such a weird interaction in the middle of the day at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I just want to go home. Oh my god.
You've encountered the very, very rare variety show YouTuber.
Oh god, dude, that was such a weird. Who asks that question? Like in the middle of the public. Oh my god, that was so weird.
It's funny that you say that because that's one of the tamer questions that those people ask.
Oh god. And I told this to Adam Sensei and the study abroad crew, and they were freaking laughing their butt off. Oh my god! Obviously. Also, if you're worried about my arm, no, I didn't go to a doctor. No, it took a really long time to freaking heal, and I still have issues with it. I still have so there's that too. But hey, I got a Mimikyu plushie and a Mew plushie, so honestly, I see this as a win.
Nice. Oh, by the way, the answer if whether or not you should go to Akihabara, nah, you take the station one up. You go to Ueno. Why? 3 reasons. 1, Ueno Park, one of the best parks in one of the best parks in Tokyo. 2, the Tokyo National Museum. The National Museum.
I went there too. That's great.
And 3, the University of Tokyo Engineering Campus, where I will be.
Also, Xander, in regards
There's also the zoo.
I see.
Yeah, there's the zoo.
I saw you type in chat about Yodobashi. Funny thing about that, I broke my headphones while I was in Japan, so I had to go and get headphones at Yodobashi Camera, and then when they broke, they were still under warranty, but they were under a Japanese warranty, and I sure as hell wasn't going to fly all the way back to cash in on it. That would have been really bad.
I think it was very disappointing, Mickey, that you didn't mention that Akihabara also has a lot of good technology stores, and they actually sell a lot of
no one cares about technology
tech as well.
No one cares about technology.
All right, cool. I see.
Where am I supposed to buy my Arduino boards?
Not there. You're probably gonna buy like some weird offhand, but yeah. Actually, no, you're probably gonna buy an actual Arduino board.
Offhand? Want to talk about offhand stores? I've been at offhand stores my entire life.
Japan. List one. Hello?
I'm listening.
Oh, I said list one.
Oh, so let's talk about. I thought you said listen. My favorite is Book Off. So imagine
Oh, I know
what's
Book Off.
the American
Half price
used
books.
store called again? Like we have half price
You got
books,
half price
right? We
books. You
have
got like
what's the one where
freaking
people donate stuff? The thrift store?
Goodwill.
Goodwill. Yeah, imagine Goodwill on steroids. So regular Book Off is fairly neat. It started off as, we buy and sell books. And then they started selling video games. And now they sell at Book Off Bazaar and at their other company Hard Off and at their other thing called Yard Off and House Off. Very creative names, right? They sell everything. Clothing, toys, a lot of video games, a lot of retro video games and consoles. You want to be able to assemble an entire collection of all the Pokemon games, you can do that for probably $20. Actually, no, probably not for the DS games, but all the original GBA and Game Boy Color games, you can get them for less than $20. I would bet that you can get them for 10.
I went to a Book Off, one for my manga class, because I had to go buy the Spirited Away manga because I wanted to have it physically. So I did. The other thing, and this is the thing that I'm most proud of, I bought every single volume of Ancient Magus Bride in Japanese that was released at the time for like $20. And I was like,
they have box sets of all your favorite manga as well. If you want to get Demon Slayer, regular Demon Slayer, even though it's not a very long manga, you can buy it for $100, $200. Book Off, you get it for like 50. It's quite frankly the best.
And they're in good. A lot of the books they're used, but they're in good condition.
Yeah, Japan, or at least the Japanese, are very, very, very good to their used goods. Let's just say when it comes to books and all that stuff, because it's essentially they don't do anything that kind of upsets the value, but at the same time, because the Japanese people have this tendency, anything that's actually just practically ruined is worthless. But that's a good thing because you can get them for like near nothing, literally nothing, unless it's a rare item, in which case, good luck with that.
Very true. A lot of things are very repairable.
Yeah, an example of this is if you go to one of the really, really specialized stores in Nagano Broadway. So first off, let's preempt this with what the heck is Nagano Broadway and why have I never heard of this before in my life? It's because you probably haven't. And it is a very, very, very unique store in that it sells a lot of used goods, especially that from Mandarake. And if you know what that is, that's one of the chief secondhand stores in Japan behind Tsurugi and all that stuff. That are chains essentially. And Nagano Broadway, which is located in Nagano Station or close to Nagano Station, is basically a set of like 5 of these stores, like and also a bunch more used good stores. In there, you can find like pristine manga from like the Astro Boy era. And what I mean by that is like 1960s. For like going up of close to 5,000 to like 10,000 USD. And like that's pristine condition. You go like a little bit more into the one that looks kind of like wrecked, like a pulp. That thing still worth $1,000. You can go around and like see some really unique aspects of Nagano Broadway, and it's a unique location that I like to bring people because they don't know about it, and most people don't either. It was also introduced to me by a friend because I didn't know about it. You can get some really, really nice used goods there as well, but generally the used goods there are kind of more like American baseball card level rarity, where you're just like, yes, this is my niche, and I will only buy this. An example, one of the niches that they have are signs, old signs from not only road signs but also license plates are there, and because yeah, because every single generation, or at least yeah, in every single prefecture first off it has a different license plate, and then every single prefecture every 10 years or so changes their license plate. So like there's a lot of niche items there as well. There's also like Gundam, obviously. That's
Yes,
like that.
that's
We're not
me.
going to talk about that, but
Yeah.
that's too common of a niche. Let's just say there's very specialized niches that you can go and find. But of course, there's also the classic sellable items, which include books, CDs, wall scrolls, sh- outfits, shirts, whatnot, everything. If anyone comes to Japan, that's like a prime place to come because it honestly a very unique store to go to. It's also the place where fun story, when I was on my last day in Japan, about to go back to Houston, me and my friend were spending a week or so in Tokyo before needing to leave Japan and go back to America. So I had this was prior to this, around this time, there was Comic Cat. So I bought way too many items and had to figure out a way to ship all the stuff back. That store that I was talking about, now going to Broadway, had like basically I asked them, oh yeah, so this specialized box for like wall scrolls and whatnot, the cylindrical kinds, right? Hey, can I buy this from you? And it's like, no, you don't need to buy it. You just have it. It's yours now. It's like, oh,
Allow us
cool.
to introduce ourselves.
Oh, cool. I get 5 of these. And then I went to the nearest, I wrapped them up, went to the nearest post office and sent them home. But that's beside the point. The people there are extremely kind, and also the stuff there is extremely weird. It's fun to go look at it, if not buy.
There is also
One more thing is that you can get a lot of limited edition goods. So, figurines or for me, Gundam, or maybe their collectible cards or whatever. And, for movies or different special events, they'll have, like, oh, the special Pikachu that's partnered with 7-Eleven, or a figurine from the special movie. And because a lot of people, obviously, they don't know the value of these at these stores, you can get extremely valuable limited edition goods for very, very cheap as well.
It's interesting because obviously we don't see that much value in partnering with anime stuff with things in America, because first off, anime is fairly still niche in America, but because Japan was obviously the people who made anime, and because it's much more prevalent in Japan, there's partnerships everywhere. You go to the nearest Lawson and it's like, I see. This specific Lawson, like not any other one, this one is partnered with is partnered with, say, Magia Record for this week until it magically goes to another store.
And you know what happens to all of their posters and stuff? Yeah, you can get those too.
Yep.
All the stuff they do to they decorate the store, those are also very easy to attain.
Yeah, but it's interesting because it's like the partnerships are insane. You can go to like a Lawson or a family market in the middle of nowhere, and chances are they're partnered with some anime drama whatnot. And it's interesting because obviously with a partnership they have the specialized goods in front, and it's like, yes, this is the Monica sponsored fried chicken. And I'm like, okay, cool. Good to know.
Lately I've noticed that Square Enix made a Final Fantasy 14 brand chicken at these convenience stores.
Again, it's funny to me. Every single time I see it, I'm just like, this is honestly madness. But
Weirdest tangent, but freaking chicken for Christmas, KFC for Christmas, is just about the weirdest and funniest thing I have ever heard in my life.
successful marketing.
it is one of the best
Super-
marketing campaigns that has
Super
ever
successful
existed.
marketing campaign. And no, I won't be doing the FF14 copy pasta because I don't remember it. However, if you are interested in playing, I do recommend it. Um, but like, I just thinking of it, it's just absolutely insane how the idea of I remember like listening to a snippet of an interview and the dude was like so they asked like, hey, do they actually eat chicken for Christmas, outside the country? And I was like, I don't know. I just took advantage of the situation.
You can blame the 70s and 80s for
Of
that.
course, we have chicken. Sometimes
That-
too.
Yeah, family
I'm
market.
a KFC connoisseur. No, I like KFC, but like that's I wouldn't freaking eat KFC for Christmas.
You do have to acknowledge though that the KFC or just straight up fast food in Japan is infinitely better than
Oh,
that you can get in the
can
US.
I freaking
Japanese
talk about
McDonald's.
Wendy's? Can I talk about Wendy's, dude? That was
Japanese
some
one.
of the best burger I've ever had in my life. Oh my god. And then there's freaking Moe's Burger.
Moss Burger.
Either y'all Moss Burger? Either y'all? Obviously, Mickey, you've heard of it. Sky, have you? I'm certain you
Have I
have.
what?
Moss Burger.
Mosubaga.
Moss
Yes.
Burger.
Okay. Oh my
Only
god.
at every single train station in Japan, but
Yes.
Um. Yeah. No. I went to Moss Burger quite a lot because it was just so close to my share house that I lived at. And I think one of the interesting things that I had at a fast food chain was at McDonald's when I went to get McDonald's, dude. I always got the Mick egg set, which is literally a burger but with an egg round on top of the patty.
Mhm.
And that was way better than I thought it would be. And so I constantly get it every time I went to McDonald's. That was great.
Yeah.
Or
What was it? As McDonald's and also all fast food places do, each location, each unique location, generally country-wise, generally has a unique variant of some sort, right? In the case of Japan, it's the teriyaki burger, and honestly, it is stupid cheap, surprisingly so. It's like I don't know, $8 or something USD, which is not bad for a
Where is
meal
this?
set, huh?
Oh, what place was this called again?
It's McDonald's. It's the
Oh,
teriyaki
McDonald's.
burger.
Yeah, the teriyaki
Hold
burger
on,
and the shrimp
we
burgers.
gotta be careful about names. It's McDonald's.
Waku.
It's surprisingly good for how cheap it is. Like again, in Japan, all of these fast food restaurants are automatically like elevated because they're not Japanese to better, let's just say. And
Japan
yeah,
also
they
has
are.
their own
They're
version of
better versions.
McFlurries.
Yeah, they're better versions of whatever you can get in America. I will accept that. But oh my. But because of that, that's the reason why Japan has this obsession with KFC for Christmas, is because they perceive the fast food back then by America to be like luxury food, let's just say, right? And then
interesting.
also during that time in the 70s and 80s, KFC heavily pushed the marketing campaign for Christmas being chicken food essentially, and thus you get KFC for Christmas forever now. Actually,
Hmm.
it's fun. It's fun. Honestly, I say that is one of the best marketing campaigns because
Honestly.
it has lasted 50 years.
And still, dude, it's so successful. You have to order months ahead of time for your Christmas KFC meal. Like there is a system you have to follow to get your Christmas meal. It's absolutely freaking insane.
I don't know what you're talking about. It's fantastic. It's like the only thing KFC did right.
What are you talking about? I like their
They
chicken.
have a good video game.
They have
Yeah, that too.
Didn't they make a console?
I would not
They
be
do have a
surprised.
Nook-based console PC.
I know about the Burger King gang. That's the only game I know when it comes to
Also,
fast food.
somebody in chat mentioned this place on University called Mojo Burger.
They have really good potatoes. They leave the potato boxes out next to the door. That is all.
Where I'm gonna have to look into that because I knew nothing about that.
I ate there today, a couple hours ago. It was pretty good.
Where is
Uh,
it? And it says on University. Is that on University Drive or is that on
yeah,
campus?
yeah. It's like straight past after the Texas. I don't know the red names.
I gotta remember where University is first of all.
That would be the big road.
the,
Also,
there are many big roads.
The one
When-
true big road.
Are we talking about the one next to? Well, crud! I don't even know where Fuego is. I don't even know where.
It's right next to there, I think. Or it's
I'll,
pretty
I'll
close.
look it up.
I have no idea.
I can use maps. We're gonna go get dinner together, Lucas. Sure, drive your butt all the way over here.
Oh, I think I know what you're talking about now. Now that I'm actually
Okay.
reading what it is.
Wait,
Okay.
Although-
getting lost of Zora? What? Wait, hold on. What? I'm so confused. Whatever. Um. Anyways, sorry. I just had to ask that question because I was curious. Fast food really was very, very interesting and very delicious.
Now-
How about rather than traditional fast food, what about the Japanese fast food?
I've been
Japanese
waiting.
fast food is straight up just like noodles that you get for like $2.
And rice bowl.
Ramen, soba, what was the last one? Udon
Somen
for
and
somen.
They do sell pho more recently.
Yeah, but those specific four Japanese like noodle dishes are like, you want cheap food? You go either to a stall that sells them for like 200 yen, or you find the one hole in the door shop where it's also 200 yen, but all the drinks are spiked, as in like they're all like $10.
Oh my god, dude! The one place. So when I finished, I didn't explain this. I went to Kyoto University for my trip. At the end of the day, I would just go to Mitaka Station and go to Kichijoji as well. I think. Don't worry, I think it was Kichijoji Station. And they had a huge shopping center there, and it had a place that I loved to go to called Ichiran Ramen.
Oh
Have
yes,
either of
the
y'all heard
fan
of that?
favorite internationally.
Oh.
I'm not a fan of tonkotsu ramen, but Ichiran is pretty cool.
I went there at least a couple times a week. It was really freaking good. And the best part, nobody talks to you over there. It's got the holy ticket machine.
Yeah.
The private booth and everything.
But I think I also went to a couple local places. Like, so I lived at Haijima, near Haijima Station. And I would just often just go to this one random freaking hole in the wall ramen shop every couple weeks or so. And that was good too. And then obviously every train station has a noodle shop of some form, right? That's just a universal law in Japan. So I went to an udon place, but because I didn't actually know precisely what udon was, I ordered thin noodles like an idiot. It was still really good. I had duck udon. That was great.
Huh.
Okay.
But yeah, it really is just noodles. Although there's also conveyor belt sushi.
Okay. So before we get to that, I will actually have to bestow upon you the knowledge that is the fast food tier list when it comes to cost. Okay. Okay.
Go for it.
So.
Oh, let's see if we agree.
Okay, that's true. So the four major ones on top, like, are all the noodle ones, like just straight up soba,
Obviously, yeah.
somen, udon, and ramen, right?
Yeah.
And even then, those were actually split into two pieces. Ramen and somen are actually no, ramen and actually no, just ramen. The other three are like the cheapest by far because they don't require any preparation whatsoever other than broth and the noodle. Maybe kitsune parts, but kitsune tofu. But let's ignore that, right? If you just account for the noodle and broth and like some radish, sorry, some onions and whatnot, those three are like the cheapest by far and also the most numerous. Cheap ramen shops are next after that, for me at least. And here you can also get certain rice dishes that are also somewhat cheap. It's dependent on where you are, but you won't get a donburi. We're talking more like or a tonkatsu with rice. It's more just straight up rice with like not best cuts of meat, right? That's around that area too.
You don't like gyudon?
No. Here's the thing. Gyudon is a
Yoshinoya
don,
is-
and
yeah.
dons are the next ones. The dons are next after that. All the dons
The dons
are
are rice
in that
balls.
area. Yeah, so dons are rice balls, and you can put whatever you or generally gyudon is a beef rice ball. Tonkatsu don is pork cutlet balls. There's a ton of dons. I don't remember all of them.
Just
so
don't
much.
ask for the human flesh don. All right.
Yes,
Little,
yes.
little yabe.
Or yes. But the dons are next after that, and also at the same time, depending on how much you can eat, and because most people eat quite a lot, actually, the very bottom tier in like in the tier list is sushi, as in the conveyor sushi. Because generally, how that works is each dish, so to speak, usually contains two pieces of nigiri nigiri sushi, which is just regular sushi. And each one of those, usually, unless it's like one of the more expensive fishes, costs $1 each. But the problem is that generally most people would eat like 10 or more, right? And then also at the same time, you can also grab dessert on the way if you want to. But no one goes to a sushi shop for
You
dessert.
can easily
Let's
reach
just-
the $10 price
Yeah.
tag or the $15 price tag.
But
yeah.
that's like at the bottom because of that reason. Technically, if you only eat one of them, then yeah, it's the cheapest. But like, who comes to a sushi shop and eats?
Let's
Sushi
go in
places
and
are the
eat
best
one.
to go as a group, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's
Whoever
best
can
to
get that
share
fat
that.
stack of plates.
Yeah.
In my opinion, so the best part about ramen places is that you cannot. So the U.S. there is this stupid thing called charging over $10 for ramen. For
no.
mediocre ramen, by the way. I haven't
Yeah.
had a ramen in the U.S. that has been similar to a Japanese fast food style ramen once in my life yet,
Oh man.
and it is extremely disappointing.
Oh, by the way, just as a like a mental note, ramen in the US, 10 or more, and it's just like what? Ramen in Japan? Less.
If you want to
than,
spend $10 in a ramen shop in Japan, you're getting the ramen bowl, you're getting a large thing of chahan fried rice, and you're getting what's the
getting
English
the
name?
works.
Pot stickers, gyoza, right? And then
Yeah.
on top of that, you're getting something else, probably a beer.
Ramen by itself is usually like $3-4. It's not expensive at all.
If you get the kids ramen, you get a free gacha.
Yes, and I guess that's another thing. I should say, if you're into like the drinking side, so not you, Lucas, but if you're into the drinking side in gyoza generally only cost like $2, $3, and then you buy beer. And here's the thing: it's like America. The beer is the one that spikes your that basically
cost, yeah.
destroys
right.
your bank balance. Because the beer usually costs like $8, $9, $10, and you're just like, why? Let me just eat and drink in peace.
And here's where I disagree a little bit. The dons are almost rival ramen for me. We talk about
Okay.
Yoshinoya or Skia. The thing about them is that Skia, they're open 24 hours. So you
yes.
go out to the
Yes.
mountains, right? You go to Skia, get a 300 yen gyudon. For an extra 100 yen, you get a free raw egg to mix into your rice.
Yeah, yeah,
So
okay. You
good.
got me there. And not only that, but if you really wanted like 1.5 more rice, you pay another like $1.
Yeah,
It's
the
not
price
much.
stack is so lenient. They have itty bitty bowls from like 100 yen and they go all the way up. Like they have
Yeah.
so many different sizes, so you can get the exact
Basically, if
size
you
you
go
need.
over $10, you're basically eating for the entire day, if not
Honestly,
more.
That's right.
yeah. Really. Yeah.
But here's the thing that's where we kind of did coincide because I did say that the ramen kind of encapsulates the dons as well in a sense. It's just
True.
obviously the three most cheapest ones are just straight noodles, right? That's it. That's all you get, and that's $2 territory. That's like you go in and you just want to eat something for like dirt cheap. You come in, you don't want to like make your own food. Someone's already made it. It's like 6 a.m. in the morning. You have to go to work. You're hungry, but you don't want to like spend millions. You go to a udon shop, $2. Done. You leave.
Eating out in Japan is really freaking cheap if you know
It's
what type of
surprising.
foods are cheap.
It's surprising. But here's the thing. Here's the kicker, right? They do say that the overall price of living is greater in Japan, right? Where do those costs come from? Positive question, Lucas. Where do they come from?
Uh, housing.
Actually, surprisingly, housing can be cheap.
Housing is dirt cheap. You can
Yeah,
get an
housing is
apartment
very
Okay,
cheap.
that's what I
It's
thought.
actually
in a
it's
big
actually
city for
one thing
$300 a
that
month.
makes Japan quite expensive, and it's the
Trains.
thing that makes Japan the most convenient place on earth.
Trains.
It's the transportation.
Yep.
Specifically trains. So here's the thing. If you just do buses, you're actually kind of fine. Because generally, if you want, like, I don't know, say your house to a station, right? That's generally $2 in fares on a bus, right? However, as soon as you get on that train, you're dishing in the big bucks. Gosh. I remember having to spend $20 per route each time I wanted to go. Oh, sorry. One way each time I wanted to go from Osaka University, where I was, down to Umeda, downtown Osaka. Oh god, I had to make sure I actually wanted to go down to Osaka before I spent that much money. Because it really is expensive. That's the
It's
thing.
expensive to not go very far either.
Yeah, you can walk. Like, honestly, walking is fine, and so is using a bike. But surprisingly, the thing that's the most convenient is the thing that's also the most expensive. Now, here's the thing. Why does this still work? Do you know the answer, Lucas?
No.
The answer is companies. No, really, that's it.
Yeah.
Companies pay for all incurred
That makes sense,
transportation
A lot of
between
people
I've heard of that. Yeah.
between your house and
And the
workplace at
business
least.
place. Yep.
Yeah, and they calculate that. Like when you specifically apply for the job, right? They explicitly like figure out because all of the train routes are public knowledge, obviously, right?
Yeah, and that's
And
pretty easy to calculate.
yeah, they can calculate your train fare per day and then give you a certain allowance. Like they just give you more money
Yep.
for transportation per month, right? So
Yep.
like that's the reason why not everyone's like completely shut down by transportation is because well the companies pay for it. But at the same time, if you're just wanting to do a day trip or whatnot, then still cheaper than a car, surprisingly.
Probably. And honestly, you also have to keep in mind that you don't have to pay car insurance. You don't have to pay for maintenance on your vehicle. Like you just
cars
have
are
to.
very convenient in Japan too, though. It is
I mean, yeah.
honestly not that hard to
Actually,
drive from Tokyo to Osaka on the highway.
It's not, but
And
at the same time, it's like there was no need to because trains exist.
exactly.
Or if your big brain play. So here's the thing: the Shinkansen costs $300 between Osaka and Tokyo, excluding the Japanese rail pass. We're talking about living there, okay? So how can you get from Osaka to Tokyo cheaper? First way, night buses. Those things exist, and if you know Japanese or you know how to read it, and you can listen to numbers, let's just say, you can get them for like $30 to go to, like
dang.
literally
You know what it costs
1/10 the cost.
$30 to get from Tokyo to Osaka?
Well, $30 on non-holidays. Let's just go with that, okay? Work
Yeah.
days. Work days.
Flight tickets.
Holidays. It goes up. It goes up to a maximum of like 70, but still cheaper than 200, right? The expense is that it's a night bus, so you'll be sleeping on the bus there
Oh
and
yeah, of
back.
course. I mean, you're paying for a longer trip, which makes
Now,
sense.
here's the other tactic that not many people know about: a plane.
Planes are also $30.
Yes, they
I'm
can also
sorry,
cost
what?
just as much to
You can
go
fly
take a
anywhere in
plane.
Japan for less than $100.
Yes.
Man, dang, I didn't know that.
So here's the thing: like you might think, this specially purposed track between the two major economic capitals in Japan, right? The Shinkansen. I should take that because, well, it's fast. But people complete this. People think about like, okay, buses, okay, they work, but people completely dismiss planes because they completely think that they are very expensive because, well, they are unless you're in Japan and going to Japan. In which case, they're dirt cheap.
Dude, that's insane. I will need to remember that.
An example of this was when I wanted to go to the Yuki Matsuri fair in Hokkaido,
Mm.
which I don't need to explain to people where that is. It's an island to the north of Japan, and it's pretty far from
It's
everything.
north,
Let's just
north.
say
It's far, but there's a lot of cool stuff there.
yes,
And I can talk about
and
Hokkaido for hours and hours as well.
yes, and I lived in Osaka, which is on the southern part, mainland Japan. Okay, so I had like two choices. I had the Shinkansen. I had three choices. I had the Shinkansen, the bullet train, which I don't know. I think that one cost like $800. It sucked. You don't consider that at all, but it will get you there in about 5 hours. Night bus, it would cost you $100 and would take you 2 days, or a plane for the low cost of, I guess, Lucas. Wanna guess?
$20.
It's not that cheap.
You want to know how much it costs right now if I were to book a ticket from Tokyo to Hokkaido?
Go Osaka to Hokkaido because that's the trip I
Osaka to
made.
Hokkaido? Okay.
It wasn't that cheap. It wasn't $20, but I did.
It's fairly cheap.
It is fairly cheap.
You added $5 to the total price, Mickey.
Yeah. In that okay, so here's the thing. It's currently non-peak hours, but winter is peak hours. So peak hours does bump that up a little bit more to a really very expensive $40.
Yeah, if you were to book a flight right now, walk into the airport and fly out, it would cost you $55. From Tokyo, $40.
Oh my
The price
god.
actually just went down between the last 5 minutes that I checked it.
In other words, planes are completely worth it in Japan.
No kidding.
Very surprisingly.
That's insane.
On the topic of planes, when you fly back from Japan, usually international flights, you are guaranteed at least usually 2 check-ins. You can maximize your space by packing everything into a big old box and wrapping it up and then shipping it to the airport and then having the airport check it for you. Then you can maximize as much goods that you buy from all the stores that you go to.
Yep.
Very good idea if you know how to fill out a shipping label.
Man.
So
I had
Lucas, just a quick thing. Does this make all of those trips to Okinawa in manga and anime make sense to you now?
Yeah.
Because it's that cheap. It
Yeah.
really is.
Dang.
You can look up the cost from Tokyo to Okinawa, and you'll be surprised at how cheap it is. During non-peak hours, that is. Peak hours are a different story, and we don't talk about them.
In regards to shipping, all right. I had a study abroad mate freaking buy a really large figurine of a Girls in Panzer tank. I'm
Like an actual tank? At that point, was it just straight up the size of a car?
Okay, so like freaking I'm trying to like get some kind of measurements, but I can't freaking think of it. It's like 3 feet by 2 feet, I think, in regards to its size. So pretty big in area alone.
Ah. That's the size of my table.
That
Dang.
that that thing doesn't that thing doesn't fit in a suitcase very easily, so he had to ship it back.
Oh, if you ship it by a boat, it might take you 6 months.
It takes you 6 months. It's the cheapest option, and honestly, depends on how you view the worth of shipping it by boat. Where, here's the thing, containers do fall off ships.
Oh yeah, it's actually a
Very
big problem.
rarely, but they happen. And
It's
if that happens, your goods are lost forever. And that's actually a valid concern. In which case, your best bet is actually just air travel in some way,
it's
shape, or form.
funny. I had a in my ethics lecture we were discussing shipping containers in the ocean.
Yeah, no, like one of those containers just drops up and just stays there. And the thing is that it's reported, but that's about it. Nothing else happens. It just
No
floats.
one's gonna go through that unless
Nah.
there's like something super important.
No. How do I know this? I had some of my items drop off a ship, and I never used sea shipping again. It's very rare, yes, but I also spent like way too much money on the goods inside, so let's not.
Better spend that extra mile to make sure it gets home
Yeah.
safe.
Yeah, at that point, the difference in cost is enormous. You generally look up at a 200% increase from shipping, like actual ships to planes. But the peace and mind is worth it because it will actually get to you. Whereas in like I did eventually ship all my items from Japan after my stay abroad via ship. Oh gosh, that was a nerve-wracking 6 months.
Whew. I remember okay, so I remember having bought so many things that I was actually legitimately concerned whether or not I had to go ship items, right? Um, I packed everything into my suitcase and had to leave behind two of the best pillows I have ever had the pleasure of using in my life, which made me sad, and a bag of coins, and I was on the exact weight limit.
That's another thing. When you go to Japan, bring only if you're gonna go for like, well, only bring maybe don't bring that much clothes, and only bring enough for maybe a suitcase or for even just inside a carry-on, and then the rest of your big bags, save those for coming back. Don't pack those bags when you leave because you want to have space to come back.
Yeah, it's generally one of those nice travel tips to deal to have when you want to ship things back, especially in a place like Japan where you are nearly guaranteed to buy something.
Yeah, dude, the freaking. Oh, I wish I had planned ahead of time when I was bringing stuff back. I missed those two
We all
pillows. Those two pillows are great.
we all learn things every day. Don't worry.
Oh man. Well, we have approximately 11 minutes and 5 seconds left. Or 2 seconds. Now we have 10. We have 10 minutes
Ah,
left. Well, we had 10
excellent.
minutes and something seconds. Now we just have less than 10 minutes. Are there any other thoughts y'all would like to add before we end off for today?
Oh no, it's this entire like podcast was just story time. So
It was great.
it's great. I love talking about stories, especially
um,
when the stories have something that you can learn from.
I have something you could learn from. I witnessed somebody take advantage of the exchange rate from yen to dollars. With the fact that yen is just a lesser valued currency than the U.S. dollar, right?
Uh-huh.
They bought a Nintendo Switch and saved like a solid $20.
Yes, I actually did that for someone. You can get tax-free goods if you spend more than $100 at many places. Sometimes it's 50.
Mhm.
Then, with the exchange rate and certain items, you can get things for really cheap. I bought a Nintendo Switch for $30-$40 off
Yep.
because what the hell?
Yep. Might as well, right?
And the great secret for me is that because I'm a dual citizen, I enter the country with my Japanese passport and then I get tax-free with my American passport. So technically, I could get tax-free infinitely.
Oh man. The other thing, so in regards to like sushi and such, right? I have always found it super fascinating, just how American sushi is compared to Japanese sushi. American sushi is all about combining different flavors and different elements and, together to create a unique sushi. Whereas sushi in Japan is all about the fish itself. That is the primary reason for the sushi existing. It's just for the fish.
It makes sense. Well, when you consider that Japan is it's an island. There's fish
Yeah.
everywhere. Whereas in America, you might not necessarily be next to the ocean, so you don't get the freshest fish, right?
And you just kind of just gotta use what you got,
Yep. So you make flavors out of the not as fresh fish that you can make it out of, which is nice.
Yeah.
There are some people who really enjoy fish to the point where they can differentiate the region that they caught the fish in, and it's not the day after they caught it. It will be the couple days after they caught it, because supposedly that's when kind of like the people call it the fishy flavor, but like where the flavor of whatever the fish ate, or that fish's lifestyle will kind of be apparent in the fish, is what some Japanese people claim.
You
Who
don't want
knows if
some
that's actually true? But
you don't want some gamer fish to be your meal that night,
Yeah,
exactly.
That's kind of, I was about to call BS on that, but then again, I know people who drink wine and just know exactly what like freaking grape orchard it's from and just like what region. So like I'm honestly not surprised. Oh man.
But yeah, another tip at all. If you go to a sushi place and let's say, revolving sushi, I know in Tokyo and a lot of big cities where there's tourists, they kind of stopped doing it. But at least back then, the revolving sushi plates will have wasabi in it. If you don't like wasabi, don't take the revolving plates, and you're gonna have to always order manually.
Wasabi. I love wasabi.
Yeah.
yes.
Um,
Wasabi's nice.
So, another thing, another small tangent, small story, is that so in my program we had to do earthquake training at the some Tokyo Center for Natural Disaster Preparation, right? And so obviously, in the middle of Texas, one does not simply find an earthquake. And so everyone was required to go through earthquake training.
Mhm.
And that entailed essentially dealing with the disasters as a result of a of an earthquake, including but not limited to fires, floods, smoke, like the obvious shaking of the ground and whatnot. And we had to go through like a room. Like for example, for fires, we had to go through a room that filled up with fake smoke. Right? We had to stay on the ground and like travel through the dark trying to get out, stuff like that. And another thing we had to do was like we had to hide under a table, right? It was on a moving platform that simulated being in an earthquake of varying magnitudes inside a building. And the interesting thing is that since earthquake buildings in Japan are designed for earthquakes, it is very different experiencing an earthquake in a tall building or an apartment or whatever than it is like on the ground. It's really interesting.
Yes. Yeah, so Japan, there are many reasons why Japan has no high rises. The main one is that there are earthquakes.
And the funny thing about that is we went through it. It was fun, yada yada yada. Me, and the boys at the time decided to go to Moss Burger, right? And we go and we eat, and we were eating and chatting about the thing, and then like the ground just violently shakes for a couple seconds, and and then we're looking around like cavemen, like trying to figure out what happened, and everybody just didn't even bat an eye at the earthquake, and we were like, was that an earthquake? Did we just feel an earthquake not even an hour after the training?
Yep. Very, very common.
It was the literal definition of finishing a tutorial and just the game throwing everything at you as soon as you finish it.
My favorite memory of an earthquake was the earthquake that happened. Well, the epicenter happened like 2 miles from where I was because I was sleeping sleeping at the time, and the earthquake was the one of the larger ones that Osaka experienced back in 2017. 18. You can actually find it if you really look for it very closely. And it was a magnitude 5 or so. So basically enough to knock all of my not dishes, but all of my like loose kitchenware that was on the shelves, and also my entire cans of alcohol, which I drank and just showed because, well, why not? Fell straight to the ground. All of them did. And so this happened at 5 a.m. or 7 a.m. in the morning, and I was woken up by that. I was like, oh, dang, did something happen? And then I immediately went back to sleep because, yeah,
Nothing you can do about it.
nothing to do with that. I was like, oh, it's an earthquake, right? Well, if I die, I die. I'll go back to sleep.
If I
Fantastic
recall
time.
correctly, you showed me some pictures, and there was like some like minor damage around the area that just wasn't fixed after.
Ah, yes. So you know those like window things, right? Like
Window screens, the one
yeah,
keep the
window
bugs
screens to
out.
prevent mosquitoes and insects from coming in, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so like so I was on the second floor of a building which had like a total of 5 floors. Not all of those were secure per se, but like one of those things just straight up fell off and hit like the roof below me, my room, and just no one decided to fix that for the entire time that I was there. And it was just a part of my like view ever since the earthquake. It's just like, ah, yes, a reminder of the danger I could have been in.
A reminder that humanity is always at the whim of titans. I mean earthquakes.
Yes.
um, all right. Well, it is 9:58 p.m. Uh, I don't believe we have a topic that can fit within the minute and 30 seconds that we have, or now less than a minute that we have remaining. So I am going to end it off for today. Thank you, Sky and Mickey, for coming out tonight and sharing everybody your stories. Thank you very
It's been a
much.
pleasure.
Fun.
And thank y'all, everybody, for watching. If you haven't followed the channel yet, I sincerely recommend that you do. I heard a toot toot. That's the follow sound, right? I hope it is, because I got no idea.
That was me.
But yeah, thank y'all for coming and listening to us ramble about earthquakes, sushi, ramen, and a whole bunch of other things I've completely forgotten about. Uh, so yeah, all right, I'm gonna go ahead and kill it now. Thank y'all for watching. Have a nice night.